Now your hosts for KLEAN Radio, Andrew and Judah.
There we go with the famous Judah dance. I'm so excited. Patrick, our wonderful video editor, shooter, director extraordinaire, has posted a video on YouTube. It will be on KLEANradio.com shortly, but it's a montage of Judah's dance.
Yes.
Which I think proves my point.
I don't know what point that is.
Yeah. That it's got to stop. We got to put it. We got to put.
You got to like tie me down. You got to like put handcuffs on.
I think it's definitely been preserved for all time, and you know, I don't know if it's going to make the Library Congress. You never know. You never know.
It could.
It could.
You know, with my, you know.
Wow. Watch Judah's famous.
That's right. Dr. Coe's in the studio to start with us tonight.
Yes.
Welcome, Dr. Coe.
Dr. Coe.
Thank you.
Jason Allen Coe.
Yeah.
No relation to David Allen Coe.
So we got a big show tonight. We got a couple guests. We got Mark Gantt, who's a famous actor, director, and he's got a website with 14 million hits.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and he's going to explain all about that when he comes in. And we also have Richard Weiss, who's a comedian, and he has a website, standupguycomedy.com, which he claims he got because Richard Weiss was too expensive. I guess there's a lot of them.
Apparently a lot of Richard Weisses. It's a common name.
It could be.
It's and Dick Weiss would be a little, you know.
Weiss Dick would be great.
Cater to a whole new crowd.
I guess.
We also had a great ride down here tonight. It was fun.
Yeah.
We stopped and we ate very healthy, Doc.
Yeah. Multiple milkshakes. It was a moment of weakness.
There's actually, you know, the milkshake, you know, you could get the McDonald's ice cream for like 69 cents. Right. But it's closed here.
Yeah, they're destroying it.
They destroyed the McDonald's.
How bad is the McDonald's when they have to destroy it?
Yeah, how bad is the economy?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You are listening to KLEAN Radio, by the way. That's KLEAN with a K.
And we don't just talk about McDonald's shutting down.
Or my dancing. The number here is 877-8-830-830. That's 877-8-830-830.
And we got a great show talking about addiction issues and recovery lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just go right into it. I think we got some cool questions.
Yeah, I think we do. There's one thing I just wanted to talk about quickly, which is really important. Is I think sometimes when people get sober, they don't there's this, I mean, maybe it's because of the family too, assumes it, but people think, oh, everything's going to be okay right away.
Right.
You know, they don't realize that life is not always that easy. And whether it's relationships, finances, people are always like, oh my God, I really didn't realize it was going to be this hard. You know, and I was talking to somebody today, they said, it's like I feel like I'm feeling for the first time in my adult life.
You know, getting sober is the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can start feeling, and you know, there's a lot of changes that come after that.
I mean, it's scary. It's why most people don't want to be sober, is because why, you know, who wants to deal with breaking up with somebody? Who wants to deal with, you know?
I think some people want to be sober, but yeah, a lot of people have self-medicated, or they're escaping from their feelings, or they've been trying to fix.
Or God knows, they don't even know what they're escaping from. And it was something that may have been developmentally difficult at the time, but that's over.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, they've just kind of stopped their development.
Well, that's what I was going to actually ask you, because you hear that a lot, you know, that when you start drinking, that's the, whatever age it was that you started from, that's the age where when you get sober, you're sort of at.
Yeah, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I think it's a pretty good gauge that if you're heavily addicted and using, you're not going to be doing much development.
Yeah,
I mean, agree?
Right. It's not that simple, but yeah, roughly speaking, your development is stopped or somehow diverted or perverted, or you know, it goes awry.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, your relationships go with that.
And it's not just your development. You can actually cause structural damage to your brain and the structure of your thinking. And
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if
that we don't really understand, but we do know that it is damaging.
Well, if you're 16 to 22, right, that's when your brain is growing.
Still growing.
Still growing. So,
although now we know that your brain sort of continually changes and grows.
Right, but if you're using in those years, from 16 to 22, a lot of stuff is going to be majorly stunted.
Well, it's a lot of frontal lobe development at that time, right?
Correct. Yeah. Frontal lobe is, you know, the kind of the higher functioning part of our brains. That's the part that really makes us human. We can plan, we can make judgments.
Control your impulses.
Impulses, yeah. That's when adolescents become adults. And so, yeah, impulse control. It's really the fine-tuning of the brain that goes on.
How does somebody know if they need treatment?
From a psychiatric point of view, if it's affecting your functioning, and this would go for a psychiatric disorder as well as an addictive disorder. So if it's affecting your relationships, if it's affecting your work, if you're getting toxic or intoxicated, and it's become a compulsive action in your life or behavior that you can't control, then you need treatment.
One of the things that I think is interesting is that we're actually seeing people coming in for treatment earlier than the point of where they're fully addicted. We're starting to see people coming in that are abusing substances, alcohol or drugs, and they're recognizing that they're about to become addicted, or they're on the line of addiction versus abuse.
I think they realize that they can't control it. Or their families realize it, and they want them to get help.
I think that's often the case. Families or groups of people at work.
Yeah.
We see more and more of that.
There's the other side of the coin, though, that there are people that are very addictive, and they don't see it. They have no insight. Yeah. Alcoholics in particular.
So is there a different form of treatment for those two types of people?
People that recognize that they have an addiction.
Right, people that recognize it, and somebody that's family forced them to go.
Yeah, well, generally we divide that into coercive treatment and non-coercive treatment and willing treatment. People get into treatment coercively through the courts or other methods sometimes. And yeah, what Jason and I would normally have a discussion about a client, and if it was someone that came in coercively, we would normally talk about what resistances they have to treatment. So basically, Jason, maybe you can explain a little bit about resistance and what that means.
Resistance is anything that gets in the way of treatment, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So ideas or beliefs or thoughts or
intoxication.
Or actually still using behaviors.
Yeah.
I also think people's biggest fear, though, is how long do you stay? I mean, I really do. I mean, when I would go to treatment, that was like always the first question I asked, because there was the last rehab that I had gone to, and I wasn't allowed to go. They didn't allow me in. They said to me, the only thing we recommend for you is 1.5 years. They said there's nothing a 30-day program will do for you, and I was like, I remember looking at them going.
They saw your dancing video.
Yeah, they said that was pre my dancing video. Now it would be 6 years.
Right.
You must go to treatment for 6 years.
I think it's an interesting question. How long should people stay in treatment? And it's different for everyone.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's individualized. Yeah. And, depending on how addicted they are, if they're heavily addicted, the first month they're going to be in a fog. They're just going to be detoxing and starting to wake up to what's going on around them. So, and a lot of it's about their motivation, too.
I think it's more than just about, how long do I go into treatment? It's a lifelong process. So it's, residential treatment or even medical detox might be the first stage. From there, there's other treatment options that go on. So there's something that we have called the continuum of care.
Right.
So you have from medical detox to residential treatment center to sober living facility with an outpatient treatment setting, and then maybe just outpatient, and then maybe just seeing a physician or a therapist in a private therapy session. And then, of course, there's AA and other social network support groups.
But do you find it hard because, when somebody needs to go to rehab, there are a lot of ethics come into play. Mm-hmm. And I know, and I'm not just saying this because we're friends and we do the show, but you're actually a very ethical guy. Right. And so, obviously Dr. Ko is too. And you would rather not have money. You'd rather not have a patient's money than give them the wrong treatment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually base people coming to treatment based on money necessarily.
Right, and that's a scary thing when you're trying to get somebody to come to your rehab, to say to them, well, this is a lifelong process. Because most addicts and alcoholics, when they're trying to get sober, don't want to hear that. There used to be a commercial. I mean, there's so many still commercials. We'll get you sober in 2 days.
Yeah. Well, we can get anybody sober in 2-3 days.
Right.
but what are your odds of staying sober? And for us, it's about joining with a patient, which means forming a relationship, a therapeutic relationship with the client, and that's often the hardest thing, where the client or patient can actually relate to you and you can relate to them, and then you can start engaging in a constructive relationship. Often when people come in and they're intoxicated, they're not at a point where they're able to join. So there's a lot of, like we said, resistance to joining.
I actually love what Dr. Coe was talking about, which was you're in a fog. It's almost like it's after you're still in a fog after 30 days, right. And not because it takes a long time for everything to get out of your system.
Well, people have been drinking or using
right.
for 10, 12 years, and they come in. It takes more than a month necessarily
right.
to get them better.
Yeah, and also realize that these are compulsive behaviors. It's really addiction is a compulsive disorder.
Is that where the dual diagnosis comes?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is dual diagnosis?
Dual diagnosis is a concept that is. I'm mixing my words here, but the meaning of it is...
Because that's why it's a dual diagnosis.
Yeah, it's a dual meaning.
So what is a dual diagnosis?
It's basically the belief, which I strongly believe, that there's a psychiatric disorder along with an addictive disorder, and I believe that oftentimes a psychiatric disorder is the primary disorder, and the addiction comes in an effort to self-medicate or self-treat.
And most people, you believe, these days are dual diagnosed?
I do.
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more of that, especially as we see less and less just alcoholics and more polysubstance abuse users.
So let me ask you a question. So many young people these days are getting diagnosed very early on with ADD, ADHD. Is that harder? I mean, the odds of them becoming addicted to their drugs, is that raised? That they'll be addicted to the Ritalin? I mean, because I know so many young people have decided, to self-medicate with Ritalin.
Well, I think people abuse it, right? Mm. If you're crushing up Ritalin and snorting it, which is, a common form of abuse of Ritalin, to me, it's more of a behavioral issue at that point than necessarily an addictive disorder. I don't think I've really seen anybody strung out on Ritalin. But I've certainly seen
them strung up.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible, but it's more like they're doing that and a bunch of other things.
Right.
If somebody's snorting Ritalin, they're probably also doing cocaine.
But is it a precursor?
No, it's not really.
No.
I mean, you're kind of talking about the medical industrial complex here.
Right.
More and more we want to medicate patients rather than treat the underlying problem. And that's one of my pet peeves, as you know.
Yeah, I do know that. Dr. Coe is actually one of the few honest psychiatrists out there that when you ask him, how does medicine work? What is your answer?
Well, we have a rough idea, but we don't really know what's going on in the brain.
Now find me another psychiatrist in L.A. that will tell you that answer. I challenge you.
This is not from L.A. That's why.
So New Orleans. I really, it's so comforting. It is very comforting to hear somebody say, I don't know.
But I also think there is a lot that we do know. We don't know exactly what's going on in the brain, but we certainly know that through psychopharmacology and through therapy, that there's multiple interventions that we can use that can improve the symptomology of the illness.
Yeah, and I want to get back to my point about a compulsive disorder, because I think it's important to understand this. There are two ways. Initially, people get sober by disciplining themselves, if they do it, and that's a lot of what AA does is, we're not going to use the substance, and that's a decision they can make. But to really be free of the cravings, they have to deal with the compulsion, and that takes psychotherapy, and that's like what Andrew was saying. It takes a long time to understand why we have to keep repetitively doing something, why we have to keep repetitively blotting out our feelings.
A good habit, almost.
Yeah.
Or substitution.
Yeah.
Like Freud talks about sublimation, right?
Yeah.
Work is a good form of sublimation. Doing drugs, not so much.
Right.
We're in the studio here tonight with Dr. Jason Coe, and the lovely and talented Andrew Spanswick. And you are listening to Klean Radio. The number here is 877-830-830. That's 877-830-830. After the break, we're going to have the good-looking and talented Mark Gantt.
You can go out on a dance on our first break?
Hopefully I will. If I hear music in the background. And yeah.
Smiths. You're going to have to beat Bob Forst's dance. We'll be right back
really
on
bad
Klean Radio.
AM 838.
Angels Radio.
Do you or someone you know need help overcoming addictive disorders? Call us now at 8778-830-830 or log on to KLEANradio.com.
Klean Radio on Angels Radio AM 830 is presented by
AM 830 is Angels Radio.
Wow. I'm so glad I didn't miss that. You know, just when I thought we had the ultimate dance, he's going to have to, I know what it is. You just want part two.
Part two.
Part two. You want Judah's famous part two.
Now I'm like really like, now that it's out there, I'm actually really paranoid. because listen.
That's not paranoid, that's rational fear.
That's rational fear.
It looks like you're emboldened.
I'm gonna be walking down the street. People are gonna be going like this.
Yeah, right.
Just shaking their heads. Like I'm gonna be like, "How you doing?"
I just hope you get picked up by like some of the soup or something, and they just make you like crazy web dancer of the month or whatever. And people do their own Judah dance.
Do the Judah dance?
Right.
To the Judah.
It's like instead of the safety dance, it's the Judah dance.
Another dance I didn't really particularly like.
Oh, because you don't like modern day music because you're a snob.
What are you talking about? The safety dance is hardly that's classic rock at this point.
What do you have on? What shirt tonight? What band do you have on?
Husker Du.
Who?
Husker Du.
Who?
Husker Du.
Husker Du.
Yeah.
And they were
Bob Mould.
No.
He went on to do Sugar.
No.
And he had his own.
Have you ever heard of any of these?
Nothing.
Nothing
for you? Yeah.
You?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
See?
Really?
Welcome, Mark Gantt, to the studio. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Incredibly handsome Mark Gantt.
Yeah.
Just
Knowledgeable, too.
Yeah,
Knows a
knowledgeable.
good band when he hears
He
about
does.
one.
Knows how to do audio.
Right?
On the computer.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, right?
He's actually the one that figured out why there was no sound during the first few things of the Judah dance.
Well, that's how I got 14 million hits. Tell us about that.
I just unplugged the audio plug and everybody checked it out.
And he's funny.
Yeah, and funny. We were very fortunate that we had, Sony and Crackle behind us, really promoting the show and using social media with like Facebook and Twitter and really engaging with the audience and
the
fans
name of the
and
show
stuff.
for everybody.
The Bannon Way.
The Bannon Way.
You can watch it on theBannonWay.com or on my site markgantt.com, and it's about kind of a small time thief who wants to go straight but gets stuck in the criminal lifestyle. So
sounds pretty cool.
And addicted to everything. He's got smoking in the NA meeting. He's got alcohol problems.
I can't believe 5% of America's seen it and I haven't even seen it. What's wrong with me? And I got the guy in the show.
I haven't seen it either.
Right?
But we're gonna have to watch it.
It's because you can't get a signature on a web, download. Otherwise, if it was a book, I'd
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like, so now, I can't go to my grandkids, hey, look,
I was
hanging out.
I was hanging out with Mark.
I was hanging with Mark, and
I know, but we have better than signatures.
we have video.
We have video.
Of you dancing, like
in black and white. Which
black and
I
white.
love that.
right?
I love that.
That was Patrick's idea.
Smart dude.
All right.
I like it.
Everything comes around, so eventually, I think after all the plasma TVs are gone, black and white's the way to go.
What do you mean the plasma TVs are gone? What are we going to be doing? What do you think we're going to have, like, Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah, we're going to go
TV
back
or
to the
something?
tube TVs.
The tube TVs are coming
yeah.
back. This is Judah's new
Yeah.
thing.
And we're going to have...
This is why we're going to make you head of technology. That's what we're going to do for the Clinton administration when Hillary gets in. My mandate is Judah Friedman.
Think about-
nobody can use or drink, and we're going to go back to tube TVs.
And my platform on it will be the safety in it. There'll be no more internet. There'll be
Wow.
less pedophilia.
Why would
Back
there be
to
less
black and white.
pedophilia? There'd probably be more because everybody would be so bored from tube TVs.
Yeah, maybe. That's a fair point you raise.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have to
don't
think
know.
about that on my platform.
So, Mark, tell me about yourself. You've been
He's
sober
single.
a long time, right?
What's that?
You've been sober a long time.
I've been sober 22 years.
20 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I grew up in Northern California, Stockton, up by Sacramento.
Yeah.
And
I lived in Davis for a little
Oh, yeah?
while. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very rural.
yes.
Like every year, the tomatoes just cover the roads.
Yep, tomatoes, strawberries,
Yeah.
corn, onions.
Yeah, I loved it up
Cattle.
there, though. I
Yeah.
lived up there for a couple years.
Yeah, it's great.
You've lived everywhere.
I have lived a few places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
But
So
Michael Ironside just is in his show. And it
Right.
stars him and Michael Ironside. And Michael Ironside, for anybody that grew up in the 80s, is Jester from Top Gun.
That's right.
yeah,
And,
Robert Forster played my uncle, and he in his first show his name was Bannon in his first TV show, so it was appropriate that my first kind of big part was Neil Bannon.
Oh, so Robert Forster's in it too?
Yeah.
Oh, he's really good.
Vanessa,
I love Robert
Vanessa
Forster.
Marcel.
Ooh,
from-
baby.
Yeah,
Wow,
she
some big
plays.
That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby. Vanessa Marcel.
Here comes the Judah dance.
I love Robert Forster, though.
You grew up in
Great.
Stockton. You got sober in Stockton?
Yeah, I grew up and got sober in Stockton when I was 19, and at the time there was no young people at all.
Right.
Actually, you guys were talking about treatment center and stuff. For me, that was my the dream when the Eskimo came and basically said either we're gonna fire you or you're gonna get sober. We'll take you into like a.
For those
30-day.
that don't know what an Eskimo is, can you tell them?
Yeah, I think it's just somebody that basically is the person that introduces you to the program or saves your ass in a certain way. And so it was a guy that I was doing construction with, and I basically had dropped a skill saw off a second floor building and almost hit somebody.
Oh, wow.
And
That could
because
have some consequences.
sweating cocaine and
Sweating. Should have been snowing.
It's a lovely smell. Such an amazing smell.
You think you don't smell? Like, I don't understand. People can smell that.
Yeah.
So we went to check myself into a 30-day treatment center, and they basically said, do all the paperwork. I signed it, and they said, unfortunately, because you're 19, we're gonna have to do the outpatient because it's only at the time it was like 6% of anybody under 21 stay sober.
Wow.
And that statement alone was pretty shocking for me at the time. I was like, I don't know if I can actually do
Very
it.
uplifting
Yeah,
statement.
exactly.
It's like, wow, your future's bright.
Well, for a guy who didn't want to, to get sober, just the world was crashing down on me, and I did the 30-day outpatient, and for me, it was tough because there's nobody my age. Everybody was like 35, 40 in the group, and they basically said to me, if you hear our stories, ours kind of ends where yours ends at 19. Ours continues on for another 20 years of ruining our lives and marriages and cars and stuff that you don't
right.
have yet.
Yeah.
And that was what they said. It was like, just listen to this yet. So. For me, I did it for 4 weeks and decided to go and take one drink. I was just going to have one drink of beer. And next thing I know, it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was selling my watch for a line of cocaine. I was like, God, that was just like one drink. That's all.
They were right.
They were right. They were right. I came back crying the next morning, with the big book in my hand.
Hopefully it was a Timex.
Yeah. Well, it was a line only.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It was a line.
It was his swatch.
A swatch. It was a swatch. Right? The cocaine.
I'm going by time. Right. It was 89.
Was it white? Did it have?
I had a white
It was
one.
a white. Yeah,
It was a white swan.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I'll do the Judah dance.
Yeah, there goes the Judah dance.
Do the Judah dance.
Wow. So you got sober after after that was.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
I mean, that's as low as you could go having
Yeah.
to sell your swatch.
Yeah.
If that's not a bottom, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So that was September 11th, '89.
That's a bad
Congratulations.
day to have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
birthday.
exactly.
Right, September 11th. There's a lot of strange ironies in tonight's show.
Yeah, you might, it's like, from now on, you're like, oh, September 12th.
Yeah, right.
Because you don't want to do September 10th, because then you're like sort of stealing a day.
Yeah, exactly.
September 12th, you're like, that's my
I
birthday.
should change it, right?
Yeah.
I'll change it. All right.
Yeah, because you were detoxing that first
Yeah.
day. It was still in your system. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's cool. So, so you never really had any more issues with it? What do you think drugs did to you? Did it change your life? Once you got into recovery, did it sort of shape what you've done as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, that's interesting. I never really thought about it as shaping me as an artist. I do know that it sped up me getting into recovery, because that, you know, that allowed me to, you know, go from a guy just drinking beers on Friday nights to, you know, wow, I can actually go through the whole weekend. And then it was like, oh, I can go through the whole week while I'm working, to dropping skill saws on people's heads.
First, you're like, I work really fast on this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I can't hold the saws anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really smart. I can do a lot of stuff. And then it was like, I can't do anything. Then you can't do anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that, you know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're talking, they're not sober or anything, but they were talking, they kind of romanticize what it was, you know, what an artist is who drinks, like a Hemingway, and, you know, and they kind of was like, you know, all those guys that we're talking about, they're all dead.
Right,
you know,
get into a tree.
Yeah, exactly. So although, you know, we romanticize is like that. That's how I if only when I'm fucked up can I, you know, do that.
We're on Real Radio.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Got it?
No, he didn't get it. It's okay. He always misses the first one.
Oh, okay.
He's actually an amazing engineer, Aaron.
Because he misses our first one, get us our ratings higher.
Sorry, I should have known. I should have warned you guys. I should have warned you. Sorry about that.
That raises a great point, though. Can I just say, I go to there's a certain place, there's a bar in LA, what's it called, Red Rock, and they have a few different types of 12-step meetings there, and one time I was in this meeting, and I'm looking around on this wall, and everything was of a dead rock star. It was like, but all of them that died at like 27.
Right.
You know, so it was like Jim Morrison, and I'm thinking as I'm sitting in this meeting, died in a tub, you know, and Jimi Hendrix, and I'm like, man, there's nothing romantic about that. There's something romantic about actually living, and I think that's for me the myth of the romanticism of drugs and alcohol when it comes to if you're dead, there's nothing romantic. It's like Shannon Hoon from Blind Melon. He's dead. There's no more you know, playing.
It has a high mortality.
Yeah, and we have this euphoric recall. You know.
Well, we see it a lot in the arts. I mean, we see it in music, we see it in comics, we see it in dentists. Not that they're artists. Although my latest root canal dentist claimed he was an artist. I disagree. He's probably listening right now.
What kind of artist?
He just said he's a dental artist. I don't know.
Like the movie Saw.
Artist of a root canal.
Well, my dentist does think he's an artist as well.
Really?
Yeah,
Everybody in LA.
Right? Everybody in LA.
My friend's cardiologist is actually an actor. And I'm talking about he's a pretty big cardiologist.
Only in LA can you have this conversation.
He has
right?
headshots. And this guy's a huge, and he's constantly inviting me to his shows. I don't want to say, you know, but it's like he's Doc Hollywood. And he's a cardiologist.
He's so huge as a cardiologist, but like can't get a job.
Right,
as
he
an
can't.
actor.
Right, he can't get a walk on.
Do you think he'd do a Walmart commercial?
We're in the studio tonight with the lovely and extremely amazing psychiatrist, Dr. Jason Coe, and the actor of the great web series Bannon's Way. See, I'm good with names. And
I got his website. Can you remember his name?
Yeah, Mark Gantt.
Oh, okay.
And it's called I Pay Attention sometimes.
Right.
But and you're listening to Clean Radio. The number here is 877-8-830-830. That's 877-8-830-830. And we were going to go to a break, but the engineer is...
He's having fun.
He's having fun back there listening to us, and we will be back in a second. The number here is 877-8-830-830. You're listening to Clean Radio. That's Clean with a K.
AM 830 is Angels Radio.
Here we are, back on Clean Radio. Shooter No Dance? You were like, you were just overly like ecstatic a few minutes ago. Here we go, you got a chance.
For the Block Boy, yeah. I'm really starting to get a little paranoid. I know the cameras are on me, and
now he's getting right. Now
I'm sitting next to an amazing actor. I'm a little intimidated by his dashing and charming looks, and
right, it's throwing off the Judah factor.
Yes, it is actually
what it is you've actually just watched yourself and you realize that you don't want to, like, you know, you just watch yourself and you don't want to, you know.
It's right. I've become
self-conscious.
Self-conscious, and the Judah can't be self-conscious. And It's a very dangerous thing.
This is the first time you've become self-conscious in your whole life?
Probably in a long time, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like you never want to, it's like you know, once you hear your voice, you start thinking about
changing it.
Changing it and how you
Speaking
sound.
about yourself in third person.
Exactly. Well, it's not third person. It's third and a half. Because if you put the before the Judah, it's third and a half person.
It's that half that really is a problem.
It's well, yes, one of the many we've come to realize I have through the series of this show.
It's all this free therapy for Judah. I don't know if it's fair.
Well, I'm getting, the problem is I'm not just getting one therapist. I'm getting every week a different therapist. Every week everybody's giving me a different diagnosis. You know, I've heard borderline, sociopath, and you know, and your mother comments on my beanie, and
my mother's comments are brutal, right?
Yeah, your mother's comments are brutal.
My mother, I'm like, Mom, I got to do a show with this guy.
They're more brutal than my mother's.
Right? She's like, what is on his head?
I know.
What is he wearing? Is you know?
I just tell your mom
I said it was a large yarmulke.
Yeah.
She didn't believe
that
it.
we've created I'm creating a new form of Judaism called flexodoxy.
Flexodoxy.
And basically what that is we're just very flexible.
Right. You can go out in the cold or...
Yeah. I could go to Temple or a Yankee game.
Holla,
you know, and we have fun. And that's the biggest thing I think we want from this show, is to show people that there is fun in sobriety.
Absolutely.
And there's life. I mean, we're sitting in the studio tonight with somebody that's created his own web show that 14 million people have watched.
That's pretty impressive.
It's a lot of people.
Well, I mean, it's 14 million views, not 14 million people. I mean, you know, probably 5 people.
13.8 were yourself.
Yeah. Your mom clicked 14 million times.
My mom
got
17,000 computers in a warehouse. She's got them cranking.
If I could, I would.
Yeah, right.
That's an amazing number of views. 14 million.
It is impressive.
It is. It was.
Are you getting a lot of action from the studios wanting to do something?
Yeah, I mean, it was very successful. We had sold it to Sony, and it's a Sony property now. So we're now developing it as a TV series.
It's great.
Looking at second season.
Nice.
You know, doing it as something, maybe adjusting it as like a 6-episode, 22-minute per episode kind of thing, and then using it as an international series that they could sell. And so it's been, you know, it was fun to do. I mean, that was, you know, when we were creating it together, it was just a thief, and then, you know, we started adding these elements to it. And, you know, my dad was a captain of a police department, and I was basically a criminal. So they're like, you know, why not create a character that's like that? And, you know, that's cool. was fun to do, you know.
Yeah.
So
what's it like working on this show? I mean, do you find yourself ending up working with people that use and drink, and does that bother you? How do you handle that?
You know, it's one of those things that, you know, I am so used to, you know, being in an industry where everybody drinks. That's what they do,
right.
You know, and so, or, you know, is doing blow in the bathroom. You know what I mean? So I don't seem to have a problem with that. I think that, you know, as you're saying, having fun, I think more people, when I'll go out socially, and I'm actually the guy that everybody thinks is the loaded one, because I have more fun, and I have nothing on it. So I don't really have a problem with it. But I think that, you know, I realize like how much, you know, it's socially acceptable to be drinking, you know, and like a drink if you're out doing this, a drink if you're doing that. That it's easy for people to kind of think that I don't really have, you know, everybody else does it, you know what I mean? And then but I see certain those kind of signs of people that drink every single day, you know, and then when they're talking about, I didn't drink last night. Had a big day today. Wanted to make sure it felt good. I was like,
and they can't think.
Exactly.
Right, and that's when you want to
have a drink so you can act normal.
Right, that's when you want to say most regular people don't think like that.
Exactly.
Like you know, my dad doesn't walk around going, you know, I haven't had a drink in 66 days. Most people just don't remember. Yeah. It's just not in their
last drink. Yeah. Well, they don't remember they had their last drink.
And by the way, we've got to wish people a happy Memorial Day weekend.
That's true.
You know, and it's a scary time. You know, last night I was.
It's a happy Memorial Day.
No,
it doesn't seem right. It's a respectful.
Okay,
Memorial
acknowledged Memorial Day weekend. We acknowledge the people that have died for us to be on the air tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's a big gift.
Yeah, and I mean, but last night I was leaving. I was at my friend's house. I was driving home. It was 2 a.m, and I got to say, I was really nervous. I was really nervous driving home at 2 a.m.
You're always nervous.
I'm always nervous, but I was super
nervous.
Super nervous. I mean, all the bars are getting out, and when you drink and you use, like a few of us in the studio have, sadly, I've driven intoxicated, and all I could think about is there are probably a lot of people on me.
There's 900 Judas around you.
Yeah. 900. There's probably like 50,000 Judas driving right now, and there's sober Judah driving too. Like,
it's like Kennison got killed by a drunk driver after he got sober. I mean, it's just amazing.
The irony in that is.
I had to go back. There was a Cat Williams bit. I don't know if you heard it, but he was like saying he's a comedian. He came out to L.A. and he was sitting with a bunch of producers, and he's like, I'm sitting there and they're drinking and we're talking about doing a show, and all of a sudden the guy just like puts blow like right on the table. He's like, MF, can't you see I'm right here? Like it's just, that's so Hollywood.
Well,
right?
there are definitely different rules in Hollywood. I mean,
I can tell you how many meetings I've been in where people just have drugs on the table, and you're like, this is the middle of the day, and these are like high-priced producers, lawyers, whatever.
But it spawns into everything else. It's not just it's everybody in. It's like this is the only place where flaking is an okay excuse. I was 30 minutes late. Sorry, I flaked. And people are like, okay. There's different rules in Hollywood.
Yeah, like I've lived like in more of the business world. Some people use it as power thing. Like there's this one guy who was very rich that I worked with, and he would always be exactly 28 minutes late.
Really?
So he was perfectly on time, but late 28 minutes.
28 minutes.
So he had it down. That was his thing.
Probably sat in his car.
Well, I think he thought that like 30 minutes they would leave, so 28 minutes was the perfect power move. Just crazy thinking.
Wow.
Yeah, but I guess you would call that narcissism, probably, huh?
I would.
So explain that for our listeners, why that would be narcissism.
Narcissism is people who are concerned about themselves only, and they want everyone to admire them and look up to them, and so they put themselves. They're really very dependent upon other people to admire them, and they play everything that way, and they often have a very grandiose view of themselves.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, is he a narcissist?
I don't want to say.
Okay.
I think it's unfair. I've never met him. He's in a big mess right now, and it's pretty common out here in Hollywood. And, there's healthy narcissism and there's unhealthy narcissism.
So can you become that's actually a thing, something Andrew and I have spoken about. Can you become a narcissist? And that we haven't exactly spoken about that, but can you be, or is it in you already?
That's how you develop. It's an inflated sense of self-esteem. That's really what we're talking about. So, or some people say big ego.
Because it's like look at a person like Charlie Sheen. If there was like a point that somebody had said to them, "Hey Charlie, you're going off the rails a little bit,"
they were fired.
They were fired, right? Or Lindsay Lohan or any of these people. Can you create your own reality to the point where it's not that you're crazy. It's your own reality with your own rules.
Well, some people
if you have the means. Yeah. Right.
What's that?
You have to have the means, I think.
Right. If you're that powerful,
you have money.
Right. Well, that's the old joke. If you're eccentric, if you're if you're rich and you're crazy, you're eccentric. Right. And if you're rich, if
you
you're
can
crazy,
be rich and crazy. Trust me.
And then they call you eccentric.
No,
and
you can just be rich and crazy. We did a few.
But there are a lot of rich, eccentric people who are powerful, who are not narcissists, who are not interested.
And what's the reverse of narcissist? What's the other?
The healthy side?
No. You were saying it's you need people to prop you up, and the other one is.
Oh, grandiosity.
Grandiosity.
Well, they all go together.
Yeah.
I mean, people, they think of themselves as superhuman, and they get people to buy into it.
Yeah, but I think the opposite of narcissism would be what?
Depression.
Depression, right?
Yeah.
Just withdrawn.
Well,
maybe
too low self-esteem.
What about schizoid type personality?
It can,
Schizoid?
not necessarily, but just an unrealistically low self-esteem. And these people are often.
I just threw out schizoid, and Judah's looking at me like, "Why did you have to use a word like that?"
Schizoid.
Schizoid.
I've learned so much on this show, Mark.
I can imagine.
I am like a walking.
Jason, give him the rundown of schizoid.
Schizoid. Schizoid people are withdrawn, kind of asocial, very awkward, don't really experience much pleasure. They're often kind of weird or eccentric. But
Why are you looking at me?
Trust me, you're not schizoid.
Yes, I'm not schizoid.
The narcissism was much closer.
maybe so, but not really.
You're a kind narcissist.
Do you know what it takes? Every week I come in here and I'm like, okay, you're going to be assaulted.
You're per mother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You shouldn't listen. Don't listen to anybody.
No, I don't. Why would I? Except you, Dr. Coe. I actually tried. He's the one guy. Oddly enough, he's like, because I want to quit smoking, and I've been debating the Chantix.
What you do? You stop.
You do stop, but I wouldn't mind taking Chantix. And Dr. Coe is a big fan of Chantix.
Yeah.
It'll make you hate cigarettes.
Is it comparable to Antabuse?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's not like you get sick. It's just that suddenly the craving's gone. You don't like the taste of the cigarette. But mostly they just say, I really don't want that anymore. But I should mention Chantix is not without its problems. There are a lot of people.
Will I stop dancing? It's a dancing blocker.
People, we get all kinds of neuropsychiatric side effects.
And the number here is 877-8830-830. It's 877-8830-830. We're in the studio tonight with Dr. Jason Coe and Mark Gantt from the web series Bannon's Way. And some of my favorite actors are in that show. I see Robert Forster a lot at this diner in L.A. called the Silver Spoon. Yeah. He owns a table in this place. If you're ever looking for Robert Forster,
I live right around the corner from there, and it's definitely. I don't know if the spoons are silver. But
and it's like the waitresses have been there literally since its inception.
They tarnished a little bit over the years.
And they got
and what's up with the bar?
With the bar,
the bar in that place is
so random.
What's really funny about that bar? If I was drinking, that would be the bar. That is the most East Coast bar
It's
I've
a
ever
lesbian
seen.
bar.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's
even hardcore lesbian bar, which makes the fact that you would be there just priceless.
Yeah, it's because
you'd go in there dancing, and they'd just be like, "Wow, she is so butch."
It's because no, you know what it is? It's the jukebox. It's the jukebox that it's the jukebox with the depressing songs.
Yeah, it's all that Tori Amos.
Yeah, and they have like a Bad Company CD in there with like Shooting Star on it. It's like back east, every bar has the same jukebox.
This is where Judah tries to dig himself out. Right?
Okay, yes, I would have drank at a lesbian bar. I have no problems.
Hey,
and
the Judah, I believe, could make it happen anywhere.
I could make it happen everywhere.
I could turn them. I could turn them. That's what I like.
You're a people's person.
I am a man of the people.
We might end up treating them afterwards.
But yeah, I mean, he's there every day. It's so funny because every time I see him, I always walk up to him and I go, he was in one of my favorite 80s movies, which was Delta Force.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody, so.
But he's a great guy. I mean, when we met him, he had actually dated our producer's mother. That's how we actually got him. And so he had got him the script, and we had shot 2 episodes on like pilot presentation, and he saw them, and he was willing to to meet with us. And we sat there. We came in and we sat down at his table and we had the coffee. And he was saying basically that as soon as we sat down, he was very gracious. And he said, "This is my place. This is where I'm at every day. And this is where Quentin Tarantino walked up to me and handed me my career."
At the Silver Spoon.
At the Silver Spoon, and said, "Would you please read this?"
Wow.
There's some weird posters in that place. You look around.
The Silver Spoon.
It's like a mixture of like great films and things you've never heard of. And they have like millions of signatures on it. You're like, what was that?
What's also fascinating about LA is about Hollywood is that every whether it's cleaners or liquor store, has the pictures on the wall.
Right.
And I think Brad Garrett's face is on every single wall known to man.
And I love just the randomness
Yeah.
of the people that are actually on there that they've never seen before, and then
Well, 99.
I think when you die, you should take the picture down too. I mean, like, there's a car wash in Santa Monica that's like they're all faded and. It's just bad.
But but it really is a microcosm of Hollywood, because most actors don't make it. So when you look at these walls, it's 99% of the actors that have 0.9% of the actors, and then there's Brad Garrett,
Right.
who's managed to grace every liquor store and cleaners down Sunset Boulevard.
Hey, if you're drinking and doing blow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You do need to clean your clothing.
you're going to be around there. Yeah, exactly.
And I must say, I saw Prince the other night.
You saw Prince live?
I saw Prince live.
Where was I? I was traveling.
You were traveling. I was at the Forum the other night, and I got to say, he's got the most eclectic fans I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, he's a genius.
I mean, just absolutely. I'm not the biggest Prince fan, but you can't.
You know what? If someone isn't a Prince fan, I always say watch him when he did My Guitar Gently Weeps at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame presentation. It just blew me away. He's like blows everybody on stage. Tom Petty was on stage. All these people, he blows them all away. Comes out, does this like wicked solo, falls backwards into the audience. His guitar tech grabs him, pushes him back up. He's like just like hitting notes randomly. Then like at the end of his solo, just throws his guitar off into the audience and walks off. It's just.
No, but I was going to say, if you're not, it doesn't matter if you're a Prince fan or not. If you watch this guy live,
He's
probably the best. It was probably the best concert.
He's the best guitarist I think in the world.
It
There's no doubt about it.
just amazing.
An entertainer. I mean,
Right.
he really is.
Unfortunately, he's kind of gone a little bit off the deep end with some other parts, but
and I was sitting there and I was watching. I mean, the beer lines there, and the alcohol lines at the Forum. I mean, and it's not cheap.
Right.
I don't mean to sound like I'm 90
or Jewish.
And it's worse than people knowing you're Jewish.
Right.
People thinking you're Jewish.
Thanks.
And that would be you, Andrew.
Hey, I buy you a milkshake and you only drank half of it, which I really don't understand.
Yeah. Well, because I knew you needed it. And I was sitting there. I'm sitting at this concert, and I got to say, there is nothing better than being sober at a concert. And I'm not just saying this. There is an amazing, I used to drive me crazy. One of my least favorite movies is Natural Born Killers. I just think one of the dumbest movies I had ever seen, and everybody's like, oh, you had to see it on acid. And I was like, if a movie needs to be good for you to see it on acid, it really can't be that good.
The Wall.
The Wall. But the Wall's, if you're a Floyd guy, whatever. But I
just proved you wrong, and then you just assume.
You think the Wall?
It was created. I mean, there's whole genres of music and film that are created for hallucinogens.
I don't think.
I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that it's right.
I don't think Natural Born Killers
I
is
do.
it. Oh, you really do?
Oh, absolutely. Switching between animation and then the surreal sort of like weird stuff with Rodney Dangerfield and then flipping in and out. It's tangential.
So maybe I did need to be on acid to see Natural Born Killers. I will not relapse.
If you do, though.
Yeah. If I do relapse, I will make some acid
that I want to see.
And I will watch
Put it on your relapse bucket list.
That's a great segment. The relapse bucket list.
Right.
I got a list of that. That's
but there's nothing. It's an amazing.
My wife always complains she never did ecstasy. I guess that's on her list.
You're listening to Clean Radio. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Going out with Joy Division.
Yeah.
My favorite band and Judah's most disdained
yes.
of mine.
Well, they were Nazi sympathizers.
Anyway, we got a great show. Come back to Clean Radio. We got another hour. Well, Judah, here we are back on Clean Radio. The dance is taking on a new form.
It's just refined.
It's refining. It's becoming more internal. We got a big panel with us tonight. We got Dr. Coe.
A lot of men in the studio.
A lot of men. We have no women tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jason, how much disappointment did the psychiatrist have in his voice?
Yeah.
We should have a mix.
We should have a mix.
Yeah.
Well, Doc, next time you come into the studio, bring somebody.
Okay.
I know you. The ladies love you.
All right.
Dr. Coco.
Oh my goodness. And we got Mark Gantt. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
At the top of the hour. And we have Rich Weiss.
Close enough.
Weiss.
If I had 14 million hits, you might have got the
We were talking about Joy Division in German, so he assumed
Weiss,
it was
Weiss.
Weiss.
Well, it was Knox, last week.
Nost.
See, there you go.
I'm one of the guys you think are Jewish. You see,
See, that's what they think about me.
You and Andrew should start a support group.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
There we go. Right in the mic.
Viagra here, I think.
There you go.
It's drooping here.
It's true.
It's been a tough day for me. I think.
Mike Agra.
Mike Weiss,
Yeah.
who's
comedian.
Mike Weiss. Now they got both names.
Richard Weiss.
Let's call me Mike Weiss, just to see how the show goes.
Let's just make sure nobody knows who he is,
Right, at this
and then he
point.
gets nothing out of this show. He's only got like 100 friends listening, right? He's like been plugging this all week,
He has been.
and we just screwed it up for him.
It's Richard Weiss from StandUpComedyGuy.com.
That's close. Stand-up guy comedy.
Stand-up guy comedy. That was pretty close.
That was close. It'd go to another website.
Yeah, right. It's not close enough to matter, but
That's Mike Weiss's website.
Mike Weiss's.
Mike Weiss.
oh my goodness, how long have you been sober, Rich?
Let's just break his out of the city too. Now it's like it's Mike Weiss.
After tonight, I'll be coming up on 6 years, June 6th.
Oh, wow.
Actually, that's the day I go down to Mexico for my daughter's wedding, which is kind of
that's
a
exciting.
blessing. Because when I left on my intervention, nobody was talking to me 6 years ago.
Huh. So you had an intervention done?
Yeah, it was a road trip from New York to California.
Really?
And,
Were you expecting it, or?
I was actually sober. They came out. There was a little guy in a suit and a
Little guy in a-
tan. And I love you, man. I was
Sounds like a fairy tale.
The guy who dresses a peanut?
I actually ran, and he tracked me down and caught me. He's like 60, so I must be a bad shape.
You must have really been hurting.
And they sent me out, and to get me away from drugs and alcohol, they sent me to Riverside, California, methamphetamine. So that was kind of ironic.
Bakersfield, all the beds were taken.
But yeah, I'm glad to be out here, and I got sober. I do comedy with Bob Perkel, who was out here.
Yeah.
That's right, Bob's been on the show.
Yeah, we just came back from Boston. We've been going to the East Coast the last 4 months, back and forth. And,
A lot of traveling.
A lot of traveling, and the shows are good, but the traveling is not the greatest. But,
Yeah, I just did Mexico City, Memphis, and New Orleans, and I swear I was just being followed by tornadoes. Like the tornado would pass over me, I'd get on a plane, fly around it, land, and it would come at me again.
I think you actually brought them there. You're the link between all the tornadoes.
It was the first time I actually had to go into a shelter. It was kind of creepy.
They were chasing you.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
Well, that happened to us last Sunday. I think when the tornadoes hit, we went across them, and the the pilot says, "Strap in, the flight attendants, and buckle down." And and then we were hitting these big turbulence patches, and people were praying, and
Wow.
it got really quiet. And I'm reading a spiritual book, luckily,
Right.
and lo and behold, the plane got better, and then everyone's drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
But me, I was just happy that we made it. So.
Did the masks come out?
Not yet, no. But it was kind of. I've never had that much turbulence. People were just really quiet, and it was 20 minutes of just shaking and up and down. And they even got delayed with flights, and they gave me like a stayover. I stayed at the Hilton in San Francisco.
Huh.
Got $400 for that. And
So you're sober, didn't die in an airplane crash, and got to stay at the
At the Hilton,
Hilton.
San Francisco.
Joys of sobriety, yeah.
right. All the promises.
But I will say he's got 14 million hits. I've got like 34 Facebook friends.
Hey, that's not bad.
I
Gotta start
know about
somewhere.
20, and you guys are 4 of them.
Hey, it could be no offense, but it could be 14 million and nobodies, and you could have 34 of like
Important,
somebody.
Yeah.
Real friends, right?
Yeah.
that are-
Real
that are
friends,
Listening tonight.
People that mean something.
It's not the size of the audience; it's what you move it, how you move it, right?
Very profound. Absolutely.
But I just got my website tonight because I knew he was coming on here. I rushed the guy to get it up. So it's standupguycomedy.com. You can find my clips there because it said I'm a hilarious comedian. So just
Right.
watch the clip. I don't got to do nothing here.
You don't have to do anything here.
Why give away the goods now?
Where are you from originally?
New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, New York. And I came out here. Somebody told me to get Twitter, but I'm from Riverside. We don't have Twitter. We have Tweaker out there. A little bit different. And I sponsor a guy now, and he's got no teeth from the drugs, and it's bad. And every week he gets a tattoo. And I'm like, why don't you take that tattoo money and fix your teeth? He goes, Rich, I'm addicted. I can't stop it. I said, here's what you do. Next tattoo you get, tattoo some teeth on your lips.
Wow.
It is amazing, though.
They have to be like gold, though, or something.
I am always fascinated by, like, the brokest people have enough money to get tattoos. It's like they can't pay their rent, they can't pay anything, but Lord knows they could get ink.
You know, it's priorities.
Yeah. And it's so funny. It was really funny. When I got sober in Brooklyn, there was a guy there named Tony. He must have been about 60 years old. He had tattoos just dripping off his body, you know, from all the excess skin. And he would always say to me, Judah, no major changes in your first year. And he would look at all the tattoos. And every time I sponsor somebody and they're thinking about a tattoo, I'm always like, you might want to wait the first year. You might not, because it's true. It's one of those things. And they say no major changes, and he included tattoos into the equation. But we know so many people that get sober and get, you know, the Serenity Prayer written all over them.
Yeah, well, that's a big mistake.
The AA symbol, the, you know, Bill and Bob's picture.
You got to be careful with that.
As long as it ain't an 8-ball. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got my wife on my arm. That's a dangerous thing.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's
She's
commitment.
on my
That is.
on my left arm.
Who's on your right?
Some other woman.
Can you put? Now I have a big question to ask you.
Sure.
Can you put me on your arm?
No.
Okay.
I'll put you on my ass.
I'll take it.
I would. I get to see that.
As long as we could shoot it.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic.
And it's on your butt, you know, at least you could be dancing.
Every time
That's
you sit.
true. Every time I sit, I'll be sitting on Judah.
We do need some women in this show.
You see, I'm coming up with such horrible ideas that I just can't even say them on the radio. I'm going to have to save them for later.
Yeah, it was for the car ride home.
Yeah, that's right.
But you do have, that's pretty amazing, though, that you have your wife tattooed on your arm. I mean,
I do, yeah.
And who's the other one, an ex?
It's actually a painting by Barnaby Whitfield, who's an artist out of New York. He's a friend of mine.
And who is it of?
It's just a painting that he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He does like oil pastels and long story.
That is a long story.
Yeah.
Anyways, getting back to Richard Weiss.
There you go.
Weiss. There we go.
Weiss.
Right?
W-E-I-S-S.
But he's not Jewish.
But he's not Jewish. German.
But he is sober.
Depending on the occasion.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
If there's money involved.
Yes. if you get pulled over in West Virginia, definitely not.
Definitely not, right?
There you go.
You're like, it's Richard Weiss.
Mark Weiss.
Mark Weiss. Yeah.
So tell us about getting sober. So you had the intervention.
Right, but the thing when Mark said he sold his watch for a line of coke, I laughed because I actually sold my watch for a half a gram of coke. So
wow, you did better.
And the guy was, "You sure you want to do this?" I'm there, no, please.
He had a tag wire, though. He had a tag wire, Mark. Mark had his watch.
But it wasn't a swatch, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a good Timex.
Good Timex.
It was a good
Swatch lost his value even then.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they say, like drug dealers, you know, they have too many, like, it's like a, I don't know if I can say this on there, like a BJ. It, like, you know, it's like, nah, you know, I got too many of those, right? Like, you know, like, I got too many watches, too.
I got too many Timexes. Like, you with the Swatch, they were like, this guy's great. They were like, I'll just give this guy whatever he wants. It's a Swatch. If that's what he's willing to sell, he's committed to being a drug addict.
That's right. If he's willing to give up a Swatch in the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He wouldn't give up his Duran Duran 8-track tape, though.
Or my my acid wash Guess jeans jacket that my girlfriend gives me.
Wow.
It's amazing, though, what comes in and out. I mean, I forgot. I was about to say something that I thought was smart, but it's not. And now I'm really scared that he's going to put it on a clip.
It's got to go on the clip. That's the next clip is going to be stupid things Judah says.
Or almost says.
And yes,
says.
and Judah has no future chance of employment after this show. Andrew, I'm with you forever.
That's right. Now I'm going to have to put you on my dole.
Yes, I am on your dole, so you better not die. I've actually taken an insurance policy out on Andrew.
You know what? It's scaring me because all these people actually are taking insurance policies out on me because I'm getting into this.
That's what, and I work for them. That's hence why I got you 3 milkshakes tonight.
But so I got this Key Man life insurance for my company, right? And so I'm actually worth more dead than alive, like for this brief period of time.
They're like, please relapse, please relapse. Well, I think most people in America right now are worth more dead than alive.
I don't know.
That's a bad situation to be in.
Yeah.
Jason and I had another psychiatrist we work with who always said you should always be worth more alive than dead. Like, don't get yourself in that situation.
That's very profound.
He was
but,
very practical.
But death of a salesman. Death of a salesman. That's the whole point of death of a salesman.
Right.
Are you worth more dead than alive? Anyways, let's get back to Richard Weiss. The
Right.
speaking
It
of
was definitely worth
sweaters,
more alive
yes,
than dead.
who's had an interesting few
Maybe not
days.
after this show.
Who's had an interesting few days. His face is a little red tonight.
Yeah.
Let's explain why.
Well, I had an allergic reaction. Doctor gave me some medicine, and it looked like I was high coming in tonight. I said, I can't. I thought it was not filmed. So I said, it's cool. I'll just come in, dress sloppy, and there's the cameras. It said radio, but at least the doctor gave me some good advice here. And
That's right. You got free medical advice.
free medical. It's worth coming all the way out here from Riverside. I said.
Right.
I'm also bipolar too. They diagnosed me a while back, and when they did that, I didn't believe them. I laughed till I cried because.
Well, that's perfect. The ultimate diagnosis. So you on medication?
I'm on a I don't have good insurance. I'm taking something now called placebo. That's all I can afford.
That works.
Maybe that's why I still look this way.
It's not even real sugar. It's like
Sweetener.
like sweetener, artificial sweetener.
Yeah,
You got
Splenda.
equal.
It's cheaper though. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I am selling a comic. I wrote this in sobriety, and it's called Wisecracks. It's on my website if someone wants to go there and check it out.
It's an actual cartoon.
Well, yeah, I don't draw, but I had a young man draw them for me. And Judah might like the back page, Dancing with the Scars. It's Frankenstein. I mean,
Let's see it. Let me put it up.
Dancing with the. He's actually
Dancing with the Scars. He's got Frankenstein.
Judah
dancing.
going up there with
Yeah.
his dance now.
Anytime you need me, Richard.
There you go. We'll put you
I am
in
there
this
for you.
issue.
The Judah
We
dance.
actually modeled for that.
Yeah, the Judah dance is going on the road. Soon, hopefully, we'll be in Oregon, and people could see the Judah dance in places like Oregon.
So what inspired the
It's a
book?
coloring book.
Well, some of the pictures of what happened. There was a young man I
It's
knew.
a pencil drawing.
And he was an
cartoon.
artist. The one we just did it on a whim once. He
Right.
decided to draw some cartoons, and after a while, we had a couple of them. So then I got a couple other artists, and I put it together. And I said, well, might as well try to sell something.
That's cool. It's almost like an old fanzine, like in the music business.
So
but
some
you
of
do
them,
comedy.
I'm going to read a few of them. One of them says, I just can't see you hired in anger management.
You can't read on the air.
No, I can't.
You can read it.
You should try
It's
the
really a
post
visual.
office. It's
You see,
right.
this is where like comics and presentation is like
Is
50%.
everything.
I can read
Yeah.
another one. There's one the waiter asked, the guy asked he's up in West Hollywood, he asked the waiter for a spoon. The guy comes up behind him and cuddles him. See, it's all in the delivery, Judah.
There's actually something really funny here called the Amish petting zoo.
where the Amish get pet.
Well, no, the whole point in this is that people are going to hear these things and then say, well, I need Richard Weiss's comic book.
Right.
Weiss Cracks. It's very...
and they can get it at.
They could get it at...
Standupguycomedy.com.
It's like 40 plugs for your website.
40 plugs.
or weisscracks@gmail.com.
Right, or the
So-
JudahDance.com.
The JudahDance.com.
So I got to hear more about your story. So you got this intervention.
Yeah, to be serious, what happened, my mom had passed away about a month before I really started to get out of control. And then I was a binger, and I was a functioning guy for a while.
It's alcohol or?
Started with alcohol, would lead to cocaine, and it
Right.
would be like 2-3 nights or whatever. And it got so bad, I knew the intervention was coming. When I saw them there, I kind of knew. But I went to Riverside, which I didn't want to do because it's far away, but it wasn't my way anymore. And
Right.
I had all the connections in New York. When I go back to New York now, every street has a memory, a flashback. And so I came out here, and I thought it was going to be like a Betty Ford, Pretty Women and volleyball, and it was all guys. The first job they gave me was picking up dog crap, and
Nice.
then they put me into El Cajon, into a place where half of the guys were using it was just a front, and one guy
Right.
came at me with a knife because he was using meth, and I turned him in, and while everyone around me relapsed, I don't know, I just somehow through the grace of God, I stayed sober.
That's
and
great.
I thought if I did relapse, I'd be homeless. I'd probably try meth, which I never did, but I could see the devastation that meth had.
Have you always been a comic?
At the job, I always wanted to do it, but I had a good job, and when you're doing coke, it's hard to do. I mean, you get a little paranoid, You don't
Unless
look
you're
at
Robin
people.
Williams.
Right,
Right?
right, yeah. But,
Even he had to quit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I just came here. I had a year sober. I had free time. I took a writing course, and then one thing led to another. I met a lot of good people in my life, and now I do recovery shows. I go to rehabs. I go to shelters and tour the country. I do my rehab where I came out of June 28th. I go back there.
That's great.
And it's always a great feeling to see those guys in early recovery and bring a little joy there and
And to leave.
to leave. To have the option. Yes, you're absolutely right, Judith. I get to walk away from there and
See, Judah's been to what, 17 rehabs? I mean,
Yeah, no, not that many. 6.
6.
Well, he can get me some bookings then.
Yeah. I can book you at Veritas Villa in upstate New York. If you want to travel to Israel, there's a fine rehab there.
Then I'm Jewish.
And, you're right. I appeared for a while in Arizona and in Florida. Beachcomber, great place
Where
in
in
Florida.
Arizona did you go?
I was in a halfway house there.
Oh.
And
you couldn't get the full house.
I couldn't get the full house. I couldn't get into rehab there. That's when I was selling 900 lines. It's a true story. I was selling 900 lines. Remember that guy Don Lapre,
yes,
who had that show on late night TV, the Making Money package from his tiny 1-bedroom apartment? I was selling 900 lines for this guy in Mesa, Arizona. It was a huge business. I mean, just
I have
huge.
no idea what you're talking about.
You don't remember that guy? It was an infomercial.
What was his 900 lines?
It was 900.
Oh,
the
900 phone, like 1-800 or
1-900 horoscope, 1-900.
Yeah, I thought those were all like sex talk lines.
No, some of them were. And I mean, the whole thing was a huge scam, and he's been arrested. He's like indicted in like 48 out of the 50 states, and this is what because when you're in a halfway house, they make you get a job. When you're in a halfway house, and people in LA confuse it. Like everybody here is in a nice sober living.
Right.
Everywhere else they call it a halfway house. and I love when people are miserable in a sober living. Here I'm like, go to Arizona, go to a halfway house, and then you might enjoy this sober living a lot better.
Right.
And I was in there, and they'd make you work. So the only job you could really do when you're in a halfway house is telemarketing. And it's like a rent-a-drunk job, and it's like the perfect job for alcoholism. And you call people trying to sell them stuff. And I was working selling 900 lines for Don Lapre in a halfway house.
Wow.
Yeah, good times.
Do you sell any?
Yes, I did. I sold quite a few. I was actually I was pretty good at it. I mean, it's really fascinating. I mean, you got to remember this guy had one of the biggest infomercials going on in America, made gazillions.
I mean, who are you selling to?
What were you selling? Basically, what would happen was he had this show called He had a package called the Making Money package. Basically, the Making Money package was you'd order it for $40 and you had to call him. So because there was nothing in the package that could actually make you money. So, I mean, it was like a bait and switch. So you'd call people, and we had this 14-minute tape of Don Lapre talking, and you'd think most people you'd call people up and go, "Hi, I'm calling from Don Lapre's office. Here's a message from him." You'd figure most people would hang up. I swear to you, 90% of the people we'd get back on the phone going, "Hello?" They'd be like, "Yeah, great message. You want to buy a 900 line?" And then it was a whole whatever. And that's what I did.
That's great.
Yeah, it was good times.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Strange first job.
Well, it was one of my first jobs, and
sobriety.
I didn't stay sober at that point.
Right, then you went from Arizona to.
I went from Arizona to Arizona was the last place I drank. It was Mesa, Arizona. It was Israel to Florida to upstate New York to Arizona.
We're in upstate New York.
Veritas Villa, a rehab called Veritas Villa.
The only one I know of is Tully Hill.
I don't know, but it's an amazing place.
So you mean upstate New York? You mean like upstate out of New York City, not upstate?
Yeah, upstate, right?
Not central upstate.
No, it was.
No. Of course not.
I mean, this is a great story though.
It was Manhattan.
Westchester.
It's
Harlem.
I was in this detox, and when you go to a detox, they put you. I was detoxing from alcohol, and they gave me Librium and Klonopin, and you just start imagining stuff. And I'm in this detox hospital, and we were watching Imus in the morning, and some criminal had just gotten out of jail like 2 blocks away, and because that's where all the jails are, or around up there. And the guy next to me in bed, he goes, "What do you think about that?" It was a guy had committed murder, and he got out when he was 30, and he goes, "What do you think of this? Like, what do you think of that stuff?" I said, "I think all murderers should go to jail for life." And I go, "Why? What do you think about it?" He's like, "Well, I committed murder when I was younger, and I got out." And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "Thank God we're both on Librium at this point." And I mean, true story. And then they sent me up to Veritas Villa. It's an amazing place run by this guy named Jim Cusack, and Jerry Cooney goes to the great boxer. He got sober there, or he knows people there, and he's been sober a long time, Jerry Cooney, and he doesn't remember the fight. And it was something he was talking about. He was so high and so doped up that he doesn't remember that great fight with, who was it, Ali?
Larry Holmes.
Larry Holmes.
He lost me some money, too,
yeah,
by the way.
And, yeah, he doesn't remember. and just an amazing guy. And yeah, so that's my rehab story, the travails of.
Let's travel the world with Judas Detox.
Yeah, I was like in a band, only I had no money, and
it's like an idiot abroad for rehab.
Yes.
If only we had timed the show when you were still using it.
You would have been.
We could have sent you abroad to every rehab. Yeah, filmed it.
Yeah, Judas Guide.
Judas Guide
to rehabs and halfway houses and detoxes across America. There's one in Harlem I say do not go to, and I was in this detox in New York City called ACT or something to that extent. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but yeah, and you walk in and they have like I walked in. My parents were so sick and tired of me at that point that they didn't bring me in. I got out
dumped you off
with 2 suitcases with no place else to go, and I walk in there and they're like hypodermics on the floor. And this was the place I told you. I said we were driving last week, and I said never leave a detox when you're on Librium or Klonopin because you're not going anywhere.
Make that a T-shirt.
Yeah, you're like walking diagonally. I'm like walking to a train with 2 suitcases, and I was like,
you're still on the front porch.
Yeah, you're like, because you lose like 4 gears. You know in your head where you want to go when you're on these things, but you can't go. And I'm walking with 2 suitcases. They gave me a token when I left to get on the train. I don't know where I'm going, but I got 2 suitcases.
Was it? You got 1 Metro token?
1 Metro token.
Which now they don't even have.
Yeah, it was like, had they given me the Metro card.
Right.
But, and I just couldn't move. And so that's a note to people. Do not leave a detox or rehab on Librium or Klonopin. You're not going anywhere.
You haven't been properly detoxed.
You had that. That is for definitely. That is.
He was just properly toxed.
Yeah, I was toxed. And it was. You know, but they talk about, and we're all sober, and a few of us are sober in here, and it's amazing what we're willing to do to keep on going. And I think that's the. You know, you were talking about you with the cocaine and dropping the sword. You running away from a. You know, coming across America. It's amazing what we're willing to do to keep on using. It's amazing.
Or to get better.
Or to get better. But that's what they say. You have to chase your sobriety like you chased your addiction.
It took me 25 years to finally get a year, and I just kept going. And I would change my sobriety date. One meeting I have 30 days, another 90, and they go, well, I thought you had 90. What do you got 30 here for? So, and I think I took it serious because I used to I go to online AA meetings.
Right.
And my screen name was Bacardi 151. I don't think they took me too serious. But
yeah.
I did a lot of cocaine, too. I did coke. I don't know why I got in trouble. I do just one line. Would start in my bedroom, go into my living room, into the kitty litter box. It's tough to do comedy in front of 5 guys. But the cameramen, they're enjoying it. The cameramen are they sober, by the way, these guys? It'd be funny if they were on crack. Look at these guys. We could go party. Those poor bastards.
Never tried that up to the kitty litter box.
That was that was one of the worst jobs I ever had when I worked in radio in Florida years ago. I was a board op. And we would syndicate shows. And when I was drinking, I relapsed at that point. But I got the job because I was sober. But I relapsed. I had to listen to Dr. Laura every day.
I remember her, yeah.
And every day, imagine you're going through, you're spinning, you're wondering how bad your life was. We had that show and a sober talk show. And this is as I'm relapsing every day. I'm like, oh, this can't be a good sign. Nothing good is coming from this.
Or a good sign.
Or a good sign. And you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Clean with a K. We're in the studio with comedian Richard Weiss and actor Mark Gantt and psychiatrist Dr. Jason Coe. It's KLEAN Radio with a K. The number here is 877-830-830, 878-830-830. We'll be back in a second. We are back. Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN Radio, Clean with a K. And it's sort of very Twilight Zone-ish in here. The cameramen are out, Andrew's out, Mark Gantt is out, but we're in the studio with the very funny Richard Weiss.
Thank you.
Who is in the middle of telling us about his intervention and how he got sober. It wasn't for the show intervention. You just
but I think they got the idea from the show. My sister got the idea, and I came down here, and I don't know. I guess the first 9 months I had. I still had cravings, and then somewhere along the line that stopped. And as I said, I was in a sober living where people were using all around me.
Yeah.
I came out of the shower once. They had lines with a razor and lines, and they were, I guess, trying to tempt me or whatever. And I called up a friend, and I moved out of there and had some wacky roommates. And I think when you're sober living, you really have an appreciation for staying sober, because I just see the people try, and I would say 9 out of 10 don't make it.
It also gives you a great appreciation for everything after. You know, when you get your own apartment after you've been in sober living.
I think a lot of people don't realize that sober livings are unregulated.
Right.
Like a residential treatment center, you have to pass a license. There's surveys from the state. You know, there's a certain level of qualified professionals. Sober living, anybody can open their house up.
Everybody does.
And they can say it's sober living, and a lot of them really are not safe.
Yeah, some are just flop houses. I've seen those where they're using, and it's just a front for crib. But the one I'm in, I got one with a lot of lawyers, attorneys, and judges. I helped a guy move in by fate, and they like me and let me go into this one. It's a really good one.
Right. And I'm on the board of Friendly House, which is a nonprofit sober living for women, and it does a really good job. It's been around for over 20 years, and wonderful place. But it's women only, so.
So you can't go.
And you're on the board. Huh? Another
I'm on the, well, it's not profit. I'm on the board. I don't get anything out of it. I get to spend a fair amount of time.
How many people do you think? What are the benefits of sober living?
Well, I think anything that keeps you in a sober environment, if it's a good sober living, and there are sober livings that actually do sort of actively engage in some sort of therapeutic process beyond residential treatment centers.
Right.
So if you are sober and you get the right sober living, it can really be a very beneficial environment. And also you're with people that are newly sober often, as well as qualified, hopefully at least one qualified house manager that knows what they're doing. And the whole point is to reintegrate you back into your regular life.
Yeah, from KLEAN, you know, it's a step-down phase. And it's a step-down phase where there still should be active treatment going on. If you're just in a sober living without anything else going on,
right,
you're not going to make it.
Yeah, you still want to be seeing your psychiatrist or a doctor, or addictionologist or therapist on an outpatient basis, or going to an IOP, which is an intensive outpatient program.
One of the things, as well as meetings, and you know, the day needs to be structured.
Well, one of the things they talk about a lot when you get sober, you know, people, places, and things, changing up the people, places, and things. And I think today, obviously, it's Memorial Day weekend, and in America, it's a drinking holiday for many people. It's barbecues and drinking. And for me, when I was getting sober, these were hard times. They weren't easy. My first July 4th, my first New Year's, any of these times. Holidays were really hard. And what have you guys, I mean, tomorrow, you know, Richard, tomorrow, was it?
To me, I have friends that are sober now. Plus, the comedy is like a therapy for me. When I do a comedy show, I get to, I don't know, it's some sort of release valve for me. It doesn't bother me. If I can go into bars, I have my sponsor say, well, don't do comedy if you're doing it in bars. But I've done it for like 5 years. And if I haven't drank now and it doesn't bother me, I don't think, it's just the obsession left. And I know one drink is too many, because I take that first glass of wine, I'll be somewhere naked in Riverside.
Which would be funny.
Tweaking. Yeah, that could add to my comedy reel, but not the way I want to go.
Right.
So I know the dangers of that, and I just accept that I don't need it. And when I go through little down periods, I have a lot of friends I could call. In the program and out of the program. This last 5 years, I met so many tremendous people, probably more than my whole prior years, which I won't give, probably 20 years prior to that.
Yes.
What do you think led up to your initial sort of drinking? Was it?
Well, my mom was a raging alcoholic. I swore I'd never be like her, but I worked at a construction job, and we worked nights, and there was a lot of freedom, and I would just dabble at night sometimes, and then cocaine came into the thing, and it was a slow process, but after 3 years of that, when I got hooked, it was out of control. It was like 2 or 3 night bingers, and I think the whole phone company at that time, that whole shop was doing something. The managers, and we worked nights, we made good money, and one day I looked and I said, I can't do nothing without doing a line of coke. I can't go to a ball game. I can't get up. And the first one I called was my mom, because she was the alcoholic. I said, I think I got a problem. And she kind of listened to me, but didn't have much sympathy. And and then I tried to go to a couple rehabs. That worked for a couple weeks, but then I go right back with the same people. And if you're doing,
Did your mom ever get sober? Or?
She never did. No, and she did. Well, her last few months of, when she was alive, she had emphysema, and she had to stop smoking and drinking, but basically up to the end she kept drinking, and beautiful woman until she drank, and then she'd rage, and I guess that left a lot of stuff with me I still got to deal with, a lot of abandonment issues, and And I'm working on that part now. Because once the drink is out of me, I realize the problem is in my head. All those tapes are still there.
That's right.
And a lot of times I got to work at that, because I'm thinking I'm not drinking for almost 6 years, that I'm out of the woods. But
so, Jason, I mean, here's an interesting situation where there's some genetic. It looks like there's some genetic predisposition with the mother being an alcoholic.
Quite likely,
right?
yeah.
Right? I mean, and yet, a lot of the issues he's dealing with now are really still trauma-related almost.
Exactly. Right? I mean, genetics don't tell the whole story.
Right.
There's also the environment. And it was an alcoholic environment, but so how much of that is genetics? How much of that is environment?
Nature, nurture.
And also all the damage isn't just about alcohol. It's about
Wasn't some of that post-traumatic stress too?
Well,
could that be?
That's an awfully strong diagnosis.
That's not the. That's not right.
Okay, I guess I've learned nothing here. I guess all the knowledge.
Just stick with the dancing.
It's a very popular notion in the rehab community, but strictly speaking, from a psychiatric point of view, it's not. It was a bad childhood. It was a traumatic childhood, but that's not PTSD. It's a bad childhood, and it leaves emotional scars.
So trauma, right? I mean, there's this big movement right now in the addiction field. It seems like every therapist I run into now is a trauma expert.
Right.
Right. What separates? Why does this happen? Why is all of a sudden? I mean, I remember when I first met you back in '91, and we started working in psychiatric hospitals, and the big thing back then was everybody had multiple personality disorder.
Right.
Right. And there's only I don't know, something like.
It's very rare.
Very, very rare occurrence. But all of a sudden, the groups were popping up everywhere where there was 10 people with multiple personality disorder in a town of 10,000. Right? So,
it was normal
enough. The multiple personality disorder is caused by
trauma,
severe
trauma. Right.
It's a lot of brutality, and where the personality actually splinters.
It's a dissociative disorder.
Correct? Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
But a bad childhood is just that.
So trauma, I mean, we tend to overdiagnose this, I think, or therapists tend to just claim to specialize. I think it's a marketing thing as much as anything, don't you?
Everything that comes along in psychiatry, there are a lot of fads, in treatment in general, and they all have one thing in common. It's a simple kind of pat solution that explains it all, and it seems to have a quick fix, like the EMDR. Is real popular now. It's
emotive.
It's it's the eye movement desensitization,
you're right.
And that's supposed to be a real quick fix. The evidence for that is really poor, though.
But basically, it's a method of trying to treat trauma. You bring the person back to the point of trauma, make their eyes move, and then try and
then they're reprogrammed.
They're reprogrammed somehow.
It's not that simple.
Scientology has this $48,000.
That sounds really freaky.
There's a lot of high-end clinicians though that buy into EMDR. I mean, it's not.
But again, it's probably what you were saying with the marketing.
I think. Well, this is my point.
Marketed as a quick fix.
Yes.
Right.
And there's no such thing.
And it's okay, we can name it.
We can name it. We know the fix. It's sort of an offshoot of the pill idea, right?
Right.
Psychopharmacology. You go to your psychiatrist. You get the pill. You go to your therapist. You get your EMDR, and boom.
Okay, this is very frightening. I must say, it really is if you think about this.
Well, I think it's confusing for people, and I think it's confusing for people out there that are looking for real help.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's interesting for me is that I think that. Several of those friends that would drink and then tell me that they didn't drink today and how great last night because they had the meeting today and they're talking about that kind of stuff. It's one friend I had a conversation with, he just said we arguing about the big book and about the steps and the spirituality of it. He just basically said, listen, I just feel like I have enough self-will that if I needed to stop, I would stop. And so I just think that you could stop if you wanted to stop. And I said, he's like, I just feel like I'm smart, I could figure it out. I said, there are so many smart dudes in
can't stop.
12 step that can't stop, that have tried everything.
And I think that's for me, it's a spiritual thing. So even if I could get some of this other stuff, handled somehow, I feel it's more of a spiritual malady and something that, on a higher level, I'm trying to, the alcohol or the drinking, the drugs, the sex, the gambling, the debting, whatever it is that I'm doing on a daily basis, all those things are just symptoms of like this thing that I'm trying to get through.
You're describing compulsive behaviors or disorders, and they all have one thing in common: it's doing instead of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think people are avoiding, whether it's a behavior or a substance.
They're running from the feeling.
Running from feelings, yeah.
Right. So how do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, you have to stop the behavior,
right.
or the intoxication.
And I guess that's the hard part, right? I mean, because, let's say you have a process addiction, right? And you're gambling, right? So it's fairly easy not to go to a casino, probably, right? But then what?
Well, it's like I was saying before about, compulsions, and you can discipline the compulsion. You can stop it somehow, but to be free of it means you have to deal with the feelings that drove it in the first place.
Right.
And that's
where it gets into individualized issues.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan of psychotherapy.
Right.
And and what psychotherapy is, it's an understanding of how your mind works, not only cognitively but emotionally. And so it's an experience where you learn about those things.
So cognitively means how you think, what you think about,
mm-hmm.
and then emotionally is what you feel.
Right.
Right.
But I think it's also important to talk about what Mark was talking about, because self-will, when you stop drinking, obviously you have to have in the beginning it comes down to you. You're the one that has to make the decision on a daily basis not to drink.
That's what I tell patients. First of all, we've got to get you off the pot or the alcohol, and that's not a decision I can make.
Right. It's and people do want that quick fix. They want they want it, but you have to on a daily basis make the decision that you're not going to drink. And I remember when I got sober, I was at my father brought me to my rabbi's house from childhood, and I go, with the grace of God, I'm sober with the grace of God, and he goes, you're sober because of the grace of you. Right. He goes, you're the one that's got to go to meetings every day. You're the one that's got to do. He's like, God could help you, but you got to do it.
See, that's Jewish spirituality.
Yeah, they would. And of the best.
And it costs you a diamond.
and of the best kind, because I believe that to be the truth. And I've had these issues, and I've spoken to people about this at meetings. And one of the things we like to talk about on the show is stuff that some of us think but are sometimes scared to talk about. It's, when people talk about the first step a lot, it's admitting you're powerless. And I always say to people, by admitting you're powerless, you do regain power.
Right.
And
well, I also think, I think that's, a lot of people misinterpret a lot of these things.
Right.
And I think a lot of them are set up wrong, and this is just my personal opinion. But, clearly a person has to make a decision to stop drinking and stop using.
Yeah.
And, there's a spiritual component to that. Nobody seems to really be able to define that very well. I think
because it's a personal thing.
We've had, this is our 17th show, I think, 16th show. And, everybody has a different definition of that. And I think really...
Oh, and I'm going to weigh in as a psychiatrist.
Here we go. The psychiatrist is going to define it once and for all.
I think...
And then all the religious zealots will come out and disagree with you.
Well, and I don't know about that.
Right.
But what I think they're talking about is the freedom from the compulsion.
Right.
That they want to get to a higher plane where they're not compulsed.
That's actually a great answer.
But it's also about having a feeling. There's this.
It's a feeling.
But that comes from being free.
The freedom.
Right. And in a sense, you're right. It's like if you read the Big Book and you read one of these stories, he speaks about this white light experience, because that's at the point when you're done. There is an extreme freeing to that feeling of knowing, and that we were talking about last week in the book. It says we have recovered. You know, and it's people don't always feel comfortable with saying I'm a recovered alcoholic, and most people say I'm a recovering alcoholic. But there is a certain freedom to it and a spirituality.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing more precious than feeling free from symptoms, you know, from that compulsion, you know.
So when you're talking about the compulsion, let's say with drinking, you know, so I mean, so we drink, we do because we don't want to feel,
right?
You know, and so now we take away the drinking, you know, and now we still have those feelings. We may not be acting out on that drinking, you know, but we still have the feelings. So like, what are, you know,
the feelings. I'm going to anticipate your question.
Yeah.
The feelings are the work of psychotherapy. Yeah, that's where they get dealt with, understood, and what we call worked through. And it's a highly individualized process, and it takes an experienced therapist who's been there, has had a personal experience themselves with being treated, and they can guide the person through.
You know, this is interesting because. You know, it's you don't want a schizophrenic psychiatrist treating your schizophrenia, right? But you're saying that the process of and I guess you probably wouldn't necessarily recommend psychotherapy for a schizophrenic.
They can certainly benefit from it, yeah, and as well as
with a lot of medication.
Well, I mean,
give them a double bill, right?
Yeah, right, double bill.
Medicine is part of the treatment of it,
right?
But schizophrenics do benefit greatly.
I guess even with depression, right? I mean, it gives you a window.
Right, it's like the lap band.
And
you know, they do recommend therapy with it.
Judah just jumps into the lap band.
Yes, well, you know, I'm worried about you.
Is that the therapy?
He's worried about me. I love it.
The lap band, that's a very interesting operation because its sole purpose is a behavioral outcome.
Right.
You know, it's here people are having surgery to modify their behavior.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a meeting with one of the guys who just had it done a year ago. He'd lost 240 pounds or something, and he said that the last week he found himself eating like he broke up with this girl and he was eating, and it just hit him. Holy cow! I didn't fix. I was trying to fix my disease, even though he was an alcoholic. You know what I mean? He's like, I didn't even see it that way. I just want to look better. I want to lose that weight. I want to be healthy.
Vanity band,
right?
Completely.
That's what they should call it.
The vanity band.
Because the problem is still there. Just like moving to New York and going, hopefully everything be better.
We're gonna jump out to a break. We got to jump out to a break.
Okay.
But we'll be right back. It's KLEAN Radio. You're going to see this on www, which Judah hates me saying, KLEANradio.com. It's Klean with a K. Or you can give us a call at 878-830-830. God, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was terrible. But now you know how it is. It's
doing the Judah job.
That's right. It's 877-830-830, 877-830-830. We're in the studio with Dr. Jason Coe, actor Mark Gantt, and comedian Richard Weiss.
We'll be right back.
Angels baseball lives here.
Call us now at 8778-830-830 or log on to Klean with a K, KLEANradio.com.
KLEAN Radio on Angels Radio AM 830 is presented by KLEAN Residential Treatment Center, a dynamic and professional addiction treatment facility.
Now it's back to Andrew and Judah.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. So we were just having a great discussion. I just want to jump right back into it. We're talking about psychotherapy and what the hell that is. Jason, Dr. Coe, our psychiatrist and resident.
Our resident psychiatrist.
You know, it's really hard to explain. And you know, there are a lot of people say, oh, just going to go to therapy. And, you know, there's a whole army of therapists now of all different types of persuasions and such. Some of them, I think, are pretty cookie cutter. And you have to be careful how you choose a therapist. Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I mean, I hear, you know, psychotherapy, and first thing that comes to mind is Freud, and the second thing that comes to mind is everybody thinks that's old school.
I hear psycho.
You hear psycho? So why is it? I mean, you're adhering to really a school of thought that's really not of the. I don't want to bore people with academics, but Albert Ellis came along and came up with cognitive behavioral therapy, and there was a big split.
That was rational emotive.
Oh, rational emotive. Yeah. I'm sorry, right? But that led into cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
I don't think, not really. His was kind of a quick fix, but yeah, it was. I think it was kind of the beginning of that movement.
Okay.
Right. Which actually, CBT is a very effective therapy.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of choosing the right treatment for the individual.
Right. So CBT might be good for an obsessive compulsive disorder, but
it is. Yeah,
right.
It is.
Or anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually have a very good CBT therapist at KLEAN.
That's true. We do.
Yeah. David C. Is,
yeah, he's probably my favorite, actually.
Who runs our 12-step program. He's quite gifted.
Yeah.
And
so psychoanalytic therapy. It's how long does that take? I mean, everybody's like, oh, it takes forever.
Well, 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. So why should someone make a 3 to 5 year commitment for a 12-week brief treatment type of?
Because it takes that long.
Because it really takes that long.
It really takes that long to change.
Right.
And
like I said, the honest psychiatrist.
Right. Yeah.
It does. It really does, though.
I've never seen anybody change in 12 weeks.
And I always say this to people when people go, because when people are like newly sober, they always ask you these questions like, how long? Right. How long do I have to do this for? Why am I feeling like this after 30 days? And I'm always like, how old are you? They're like, 29. I'm like, so for 29 years you've been crazy. You think it's going to all go away in 30 days? Intellectually, it's impossible.
Right.
And it is a long commitment. I'm not saying it's going to take 29 years.
Yeah,
but that's what you do too. The more you do, I think the quicker you get, you get the therapy you need.
And you're improving as you go.
Is that psychotherapy is an education in how your mind works, and it's learning about your feelings and learning how to deal with them.
Well, can I learn how to deal with other people's feelings?
That's
part of it.
That is part of it, right? Yeah.
That therapy starts tomorrow.
That's starting tonight.
Yeah. And we are running out of time. Let's give our guests a chance to plug what they have coming up.
Absolutely. How about we start with Dr. Ko? What's
Dr. Ko will be appearing.
I think he's got a website coming out soon.
Really?
Well, I'm hoping. How's that coming?
I don't know. I'm working hard at it.
Dr. Ko will be appearing at the KLEAN Treatment Center.
That's right.
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
All right. I'll be there tomorrow.
You'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Memorial Day, you don't take off?
Absolutely not. The mind doesn't rest, and we're going to keep working on it.
You're a good dude. I like it, Doc.
Then we got Mark Gantt. Thank you for coming in, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let's give your show one more plug. Not that you need it, because you got 14 million people.
Exactly. Well, I got a couple other things coming up. If you check my site, the updates, markgantt.com. I've got a new digital series called Leap Year that's launching in June, and then a couple others.
That's fantastic.
That are coming out.
So what's your goal? You're trying to get into TV more than?
Yeah, I mean, originally I was like, I want to be, an actor on television and movies, but then, with the web, I can, be my own producer and writer and director and actor and create my own stuff. So I'm doing all three. I've actually developed all three. Those
things. Triple threat.
But
triple threat.
But I love creating whatever I can do.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And then Rich.
Hard guy to follow here.
Right?
I got 7 comic books sold. But,
hey, 7 comic books.
I'll be at the Ice
more
House.
Than me.
Quick plug. June 30th at the Ice House. I go to Mexico for 2 weeks. I'll be back in late June.
Good luck.
And Isolators Anonymous meeting tomorrow I'll be going to, but nobody ever shows up.
What are you doing in Mexico?
My daughter's married. She gets married.
Oh, that's right.
That's one of the.
Where in Mexico?
Cancun.
Oh, fantastic.
I hope there's meetings there because I think I'm going to need them.
I'm sure there'll be a few meetings in Cancun.
There's got to be.
The most sober place on the planet.
No, it's a very long strip of tequila and Corona.
Yeah. I'm going to keep the doctor's number on speed dial.
That's right.
And you can go online. They always do have online meetings.
Yeah, I told you my screen name.
Yeah. Bacardi 151.
And my sponsor's DU1 5150. DUI 5150.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening again. It was another great show here on KLEAN Radio. And Judah and I will be back next week. We got another set of exciting guests.
Yeah, same bad time, same bad station. Have to throw it in there once in 17 weeks.
Yeah, just you're doing your Batman thing.
I love Batman.
Are you going to go out dancing?
If I hear something good, I will go out dancing.
It's always Marilyn Manson on the way out.
It can't be Marilyn. You can't dance to Marilyn Manson.
How can you not dance to Marilyn Manson?
Because he stinks.
It's half Lady Gaga right there.
It might be Lady Gaga.
It probably is Lady Gaga. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to KLEAN Radio, and we will be here next week. And thank you to our guests once again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
In the dope show, we're all stars now. In the dope show, there's lots of pretty ones that wanna get you.
The preceding was a